My name is Mia Hayes, and I'd stopped thinking of Whispering Pines as home long before that fateful September afternoon. It was just a zip code now, a grid of identical beige houses patrolled by the self-appointed queen of absurd rules. Karen Whitmore, my stepmother, HOA president, and walking billboard for pastel pantsuits and passive-aggressive signage, had turned our little American suburb into her personal fiefdom. Section 4.2 clearly states lawn height shall not exceed 2 3/8 inches. She'd chirp at every meeting, as if the fate of Western civilization hung on grass clippings. I drove my Tesla down the sun-bleached asphalt of Aspen Lane, past the mandatory approved mailbox colors and the one rogue gnome someone had been fined $300 for. The air conditioning in my car felt like the last sane thing left in the world. The summons had come from Mom, sweet, anxious Elaine, framed as a casual neighborhood celebration for Karen landing the big town hall landscaping contract. Casual in Whispering Pines never meant casual. It meant performance art with bylaws as the script. I pulled into the driveway of the ranch-style house that still legally belonged to Mom alone, thanks to Dad's will from 12 years ago. The lawn was, of course, Karen perfect before I could even kill the engine. She appeared on the porch like a pastel specter, wine spritzer in one hand, clipboard in the other. There she is, the Silicon Valley princess deigning to visit the peasants, Karen boomed, loud enough for the neighbors already scattered across the backyard to hear. It wasn't a greeting. It was a declaration of war. Actually, Denver, I answered evenly. Stepping out. Data architect. I designed systems that keep banks and governments from collapsing. She waved the clipboard like it was a scepter. Right, clicking buttons on a screen. Must be nice. Meanwhile, some of us do real work enforcing the standards that make this community livable. The neighbors chuckled nervously. The sound of people who'd been fined for the wrong shade of mulch and knew better than to disagree. The backyard was a HOA fever dream, gas grill gleaming like a showroom model, cooler stocked with approved craft beer, folding chairs arranged in perfect rows. Mom fluttered over, her hug quick and birdlike. Eyes already pleading. Marcy Quinn, the only other board member with a spine, gave me a tight smile. Heard her doing big things in the city. Must be exciting. Karen immediately inserted herself, flipping burgers with theatrical flair. It's a good payday, she announced to the captive audience. But money in this house is still house money. Everyone contributes to keep the lights on, right? Elaine, Mom's laugh was brittle as spun sugar. I felt the old knot tighten in my stomach. The flashpoint came from the most innocent question. Marcy asked, genuinely curious, so what exactly does a data architect do? Before I could answer, Karen swooped in, grease on her cheek, voice dripping honeyed venom. She sits at a computer all day. Marcy stares at screens, clicks buttons, gets paid ridiculous money for invisible work. Not like building something real, like the community standards I uphold every single day. The chatter died. Every eye flicked between us. She wasn't just insulting my job. She was erasing my entire existence in front of the people whose opinions kept Mom trapped in this pastel prison. I held her gaze. My invisible work designs the systems that let your HOA fines process automatically. Karen, it secures the records the town hall your landscaping for relies on. It's the architecture that actually holds up the world you spend your life policing. Silence crashed over the patio like a dropped tray. Karen's smile froze, a dark flush crawling up her neck. She had expected me to fold, to laugh it off like every other time. Mom's hand clamped my arm, nails digging in. Mia, stop, she hissed, voice frantic. Don't embarrass her. Please, not in front of everyone. There was the family mantra, now the neighborhood mantra. Karen's fragile ego mattered more than my dignity. The party deflated. Neighbors made awkward excuses. clutching Tupperware like shields. I rinsed my plate in the kitchen, the silence heavy as wet concrete. I'm heading out, I told Mom. Grabbing my purse, I stepped onto the porch into the cooling evening. The mountains watched indifferently. I was halfway down the steps when the screen door slammed. You think you could just walk away? Karen's voice was low. Dangerous. She blocked my path, spritzer breath and all. Not until you apologize. You don't get to come into my domain, enjoy my hospitality, and disrespect me in front of my community. Your domain? The words slipped out. The property taxes say otherwise. Her eyes narrowed to slits. You owe me an apology. You embarrassed your mother. You embarrassed the president of this HOA. Mom appeared at the door. Ghostly. Karen, please just let her go. Stay out of this. Elaine. Karen snapped without looking. Say it. No, I answered quietly. I will not apologize for telling the truth about my work. And I will not apologize for refusing to let you belittle me. For one heartbeat, I thought she might back down. Then the veneer cracked. You arrogant little bitch. Her hand shot out. The slap wasn't a tap. It cracked across my face like a starter pistol. My head snapped sideways. Blood filled my mouth instantly. I tasted copper and something sharper. Clarity. Behind her, Mom gasped. But my eyes went straight to the small black circle on the doorframe. The smart doorbell I'd installed myself last Christmas. Its tiny blue light glowed steadily. It had seen everything. It had heard Mom's whisper, Karen's demand, the sickening crack of her palm, the impartial witness this neighborhood had never allowed. Karen stood there heaving, expecting tears, expecting submission. Instead, I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911 with fingers that somehow stayed steady. What are you doing? She demanded, confusion cracking her rage. Mom threw open the screen door. Mia, no, please. Baby, don't do this. You'll ruin her. You'll ruin everything. I held up one hand. On the third ring, a calm voice answered. 911. What is your emergency? My name is Mia Hayes. I'm at 412 Aspen Lane. I'd like to report an assault. The 10 minutes until the cruiser arrived felt like 10 years. Karen deflated into a waxy panic. Mom hovered, whispering my name like a broken spell. When Deputy Calloway stepped out, headlights slicing the twilight, he took in the scene, my split lip. Karen frozen like a corner garden gnome. Mom weeping in the doorway. I was assaulted by her, I said, nodding toward Karen. She struck me in the face. Karen blustered. This is a family disagreement. She tripped. Calloway's gaze flicked to my mouth, then back. Ma'am, I needed to wait by my vehicle. He turned to me. Professional. Calm. I gave my statement in clean, cold facts while Mom tried to intervene. Officer, it's a misunderstanding. She's upset. Karen didn't mean it. He gently blocked her. After photos of my injury, I pointed. There's a camera. The doorbell. It records video and audio. His eyebrows rose just enough. The game had changed. I left Whispering Pines that night with a victim pamphlet and a case number. My phone exploded the moment I hit the city limits. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all texting the same script. You're putting your mother in a horrible position. Karen provides for the family. This is so embarrassing for everyone. They weren't defending the slap. They were defending the illusion. The perfect HOA neighborhood where rules were followed and faces were saved. Back in my Denver apartment, I locked the door and opened the security app. The 2-minute clip was time-stamped perfectly. I watched Karen's hand fly. Heard Mom's plea. Heard my own blood hit the porch. Data architect training kicked in. Protect the asset. Create redundancies. I downloaded the MP4 to an encrypted drive, uploaded to a secure cloud under a random string, and copied it to a USB headed to a civil attorney who specialized in domestic violence and restraining orders. 3 copies. 3 locks. No one could gaslight this away. The text finally stopped. In the silence, I touched my swollen lip and thought of Mom. I loved her, but love had become a cage. She had begged me not to embarrass Karen, even while my blood was on Karen's hand. I would not negotiate with my own safety. The FedEx receipt felt like a guillotine blade. By 10:30 a.m., my lawyer Raphael Boone called. Voice crisp. MS. Hayes, I reviewed the footage. This is unequivocal. He laid out the plan. Temporary restraining order, TTRO, filed that afternoon, forcing Karen to vacate the residence pending hearing. She'll have to leave immediately once served. The law prioritizes your safety. I asked the question I'd been dreading. What about Mom? Your mother can stay. Karen cannot. The audacity of it felt like freedom and terror at once. I called Marcy Quinn next. I saw the cruiser, she said dryly. I'm not surprised. As board treasurer, I keep records of formal complaints. Karen Whitmore has a few herself, noise violations. Property damage when she took a mallet to her own mailbox after a postal dispute. She emailed the PDFs without hesitation. Some things matter more than appearances on the block. Armed with Marcy's files and my police report, I drove to the county courthouse. The TTRO was granted ex parte. The next day, a deputy served Karen on the same porch where she'd struck me. 30 minutes later, she was gone, suitcase in hand, face a mask of humiliated fury. Mom's call was a hurricane. You're making her homeless. This will destroy her reputation, her position, her business. She should have thought about that before she put her hands on me. The line went dead when I hung up. My data brain wouldn't rest. I started digging into the finances Mom had always kept vague. County assessor records showed the house listed solely under Elaine M. Hayes, maiden name. No Karen anywhere. Dad's will have been ironclad. Assets to Mom, then to me, with an explicit remarriage exclusion clause naming any future spouse. Karen had been circling money she could never legally touch. I found the power of attorney in Mom's filing cabinet, dated 6 months ago, granting Karen authority over real estate and investments. Mom's signature looked shaky. The notary was Lyle Brennan, a small storefront guy between the laundromat and tax office. He remembered. Her signature changed, tighter, less fluid. He pulled his old ledger. Dad's will had a clause so airtight, even a future spouse was named and barred. Your father was protecting his legacy for you. The pieces slammed together. Karen's public belittling wasn't ego. It was 12 years of simmering rage at being denied the fortune she felt entitled to. The slap wasn't a temper tantrum. It was the moment the predator realized the prey had grown teeth. The summons came via clipped HOA email. Emergency board meeting at the community clubhouse to review conduct violating community safety standards at 412 Aspen Lane. My name wasn't listed. Karen's wasn't either. But we both knew who the ghosts were. Raphael warned me it was a trap. She'll grandstand, play victim, poison the narrative. I went anyway. I needed to be there when her mask fell. The room smelled of stale coffee and desperation. 20 neighbors sat on folding chairs under buzzing fluorescents. Karen entered with her usual entourage. Thinner now, performative solemnity plastered on. She avoided my eyes, but I felt the hate radiating like heat off asphalt. Marcy called the meeting to order with a sharp gavel rap. We have complaints. Noise violation June 14th. Property maintenance violation August 2nd involving mailbox destruction. And a recent police incident resulting in a court-issued restraining order. She opened the floor. Karen stood immediately, voice thick with practiced tears. My friends, my neighbors, my community, this is a terrible misunderstanding. My stepdaughter Mia is troubled. She twisted things. That night, we had a disagreement. She became hysterical, stormed out, tripped on the porch, and cut her lip. In her agitation, she called the police and made wild accusations to hurt me. to destroy our family. All I've ever done is love her and provide for her mother. A single perfect tear rolled down her cheek. The room murmured sympathy. The tide turned against me until I stood. My name is Mia Hayes. I am not unstable, and I did not trip. I looked straight at Karen. There is an active investigation and a temporary restraining order because a judge reviewed evidence. That evidence is a video from the doorbell camera. To clarify the facts the Red Hollow police are pursuing, I'm going to play a short audio segment from that official evidence. Karen stepped forward. You can't do that. That's private. It stopped being private when you assaulted me. It became police property when they took my statement. I pressed play. The clubhouse filled with Karen's menacing demand. Not until you apologize. My quiet no, then the sharp, wet crack of her palm. A collective gasp ripped through the room. I stopped the clip. Silence was absolute. Karen's wounded patriarch act vaporized. Panic replaced it. It was nothing, she blurted. Voice shrill. She was hysterical. I barely touched her. It was just a tap. A light slap to snap her out of it. She had just confessed in front of 30 witnesses. The wounded queen was now the cornered rat. Marcy's gavel cracked. You have just admitted on the record to striking another resident on this property. This meeting is no longer about complaints. The Whispering Pines HOA bylaws concerning safety and peaceful enjoyment are clear. Admitted violent conduct is a direct violation. The board will vote on maximum sanctions and recommend to the legal property owner that residency be permanently terminated. Karen stood exposed under the lights, destroyed by her own mouth. That night, I emailed the HOA recording to Raphael. His morning call crackled with satisfaction. She confessed in front of 30 people. This is no longer he said, she said. We're attacking. The civil complaint was filed. Assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We petitioned to make the TTRO permanent for 5 years and sought punitive damages. But the notary discovery opened a darker front. I explained the house ownership, the will's exclusion clause, and the suspicious power of attorney. Raphael's tone sharpened. That speaks to motive. Greed, not just temper. Your mother is in financial danger. I started with public records, then called suppliers using the address 412 Aspen Lane. Whitmore Contracting had an open account with a $28,740 balance, 35 days past due. Karen had been using Mom's home address as collateral for her landscaping business. One missed payment, and suppliers could lien the house. Money in this house is still house money wasn't a quip. It was a confession. Rage turned diamond hard. I drove back to Whispering Pines and sat Mom at the kitchen table. When I showed her the debt tied to her address, real fear finally flickered, not for Karen, but for herself. We froze her credit reports, revoked the power of attorney with a notarized document mailed to Karen's brother, and added bank security protocols only Mom and I knew. Door after door slammed shut on Karen's control. The civil suit moved forward while a fragile quiet settled, like the eye of a hurricane. I knew the final confrontation had to be with Mom. She sat in the living room, staring out the window, as if waiting for a car that legally could never return. They sent the court papers to her brothers, she said flatly. She called. She said, you're suing her for money. You want to take everything. I'm suing for what she did. I corrected gently. The money is how the court measures damage. Mom turned, eyes red-rimmed. But it will ruin her. The town hall will cancel the contract. No one will hire her. She'll lose everything. Same old plea. Same toxic logic. Protect the abuser's comfort at all costs. I placed a single folded sheet on the coffee table. I'm not arguing anymore. I'm giving you a choice. Option A. Attend 3 sessions with a domestic abuse counselor. Move for 3 months into a furnished apartment I'd leased in Lakewood. Work with a financial planner to separate assets permanently. Option B. Stay here. Sign a declaration you witnessed nothing and will remain neutral in all proceedings. Mom read it twice. Color drained from her face. This is an ultimatum. No, I said. It's a boundary. I can't force you to be safe, but I will not watch you enable her, and I will not let you be used against me in court. She clutched the paper, conflict tearing across her features. I saw the mother I loved trapped behind 12 years of conditioning. But when she whispered, "If you sue, she'll lose everything," I had my answer. Her non-choice was her choice. I walked out. The final cord severed. In the car, my phone buzzed from an unknown number. "You thought you could ruin everything for me and just walk away? Then you're making a big mistake. You have no idea what you're doing to your mother." Screenshot. This isn't over. I built my life in this town. Screenshot. The last one sealed it. You better watch your back. Mia. People who cause this much trouble have a way of getting what they deserve. Direct threat. I saved every screenshot to the encrypted drive and forwarded them to Raphael. Supplemental evidence for civil complaint and TTRO violation. Karen had just handed me another nail for her own coffin. The courtroom was beige and forgettable. It would dismantle an empire. Karen sat beside her harried lawyer Peterson, trying to project wounded dignity in an ill-fitting suit. I sat with Raphael, evidence binders stacked like bricks. Mom was absent, a silent statement. Peterson opened with simple family disagreement blown out of proportion. Raphael stood calm and lethal. This was calculated violence, the culmination of coercive control and financial predation. He submitted police photos, Deputy Calloway's testimony, the HOA minutes where Karen confessed, Marcy's affidavit with her own complaint log against Karen. Then he called Notary Lyle Brennan. Brennan confirmed dads will excluded any future spouse by name. The power of attorney Karen obtained was sloppy, rushed, clearly under duress. In my 25 years, any competent counsel would have required a competency evaluation. None was performed. Finally, Raphael played the full doorbell video. The courtroom lights dimmed. Mom's faint whisper, "Don't embarrass her," floated out, followed instantly by the crack of Karen's slap. The judge flinched. When the screen went black, the silence was thick with understanding. The judge removed his glasses. "Mr. Whitmore, pardon, MS. Whitmore, this court has seen not a disagreement, but brutal intimidation. We have heard a woman beg her daughter to endure violence for the sake of another's pride. It is one of the most chilling things I have witnessed." He rendered judgment immediately. Permanent order of protection for 5 years. Karen permanently excluded from 412 Aspen Lane. Full damages awarded on all counts, medical, legal fees, punitive. Dads will upheld. Karen's power of attorney declared null and void due to undue influence. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. It was over. We filed into the hallway. Karen stumbled out behind us. Face slack, eyes unseeing. Deputy Calloway stepped forward with fresh papers. "Karen Whitmore, I have a writ of execution and levy on personal property. We are taking possession of the tools and equipment listed under Whitmore Landscaping to satisfy the civil judgment." Her identity, her real work, ripped away in one sentence. She looked at me, shock curdling into bottomless hate. "You," she snarled. "You did this. You took everything." She lunged half a step before Calloway blocked her. "You're destroying me," she screamed, voice breaking down the corridor. I turned and saw Mom standing by the elevators, tears streaming. Her eyes met mine with the old, desperate plea. I looked at her calmly. She did it to herself. Mom. No one made Karen lose face. She lost at the moment she chose her pride over my safety. I walked out into the Denver sunlight, feeling the weight lift. The civil judgment would auction her equipment. The HOA board had already voted to remove her as president and issue a formal censure. New bylaws were being drafted, ironically stricter on violence after her own confession. Marcy sent me a text. The grass is now officially 2 3/8 inches everywhere except Karen's old yard. First citation went out yesterday. Back in my apartment, I opened the security app one last time and deleted the original clip. The copies had done their job. The truth was safe. Mom eventually chose option A, 3 counseling sessions. The Lakewood apartment, a clean financial separation. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The neighborhood slowly exhaled. Neighbors who once cowered under Karen's clipboard now joked about the slap heard round the HOA. Someone even planted an unapproved garden gnome in the common area as quiet rebellion. I smiled every time I drove past. I never went back to Whispering Pines except to help Mom move. The house felt lighter, larger, free of pastel tyranny. Dads will have protected us after all, not just with money, but with the blueprint for standing up when the rules became weapons. I still design invisible architecture for banks and governments. But the most satisfying system I ever secured was the one that finally firewalled a bully out of our lives. Justice doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it wears a doorbell camera and a data architect's patience. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Let's connect and chat about it. And if you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and hitting that like button to help more people discover it. Your support means the world.